Good afternoon, evening, or possibly morning, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome to the Orville, what is it? The Orville Review Show, I think we call it. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. We watch the Orville, and that's just what we're here for. Anyway, I'm Jody Simpson, your host tonight. And tonight I have two special people, but we're also minus one. So, I guess we're just going to have to live with what we have. All right.
Oh, what the heck,
Jody?
I had to get. You guys were moving. I had to get you moving a little. Anyway, to my immediate. I guess it's my left. Kevin Millard.
How are you, Mr. Narcissical himself.
Yeah, it's cynical, not narcissist. we mixed that up. Or I mixed that up. But anyway, how are you today, Kevin?
Excellent.
All right, and last but definitely not least, my fellow alien lover himself, Adam Woodward.
Hello, Jody.
Hi, Adam. How are you?
I'm good.
Right.
I'm excited to talk about this episode after last week's debacle. Like, that was just terrible. So
debacle. I didn't hate it as much as you guys did, but you guys definitely didn't like last week's episode. Let's see how this week fares. And speaking of this week, we are looking at Into the Fold. This is basically an episode mostly about Claire and her family and Isaac, with the occasional Orville rest of the crew there. But basically they are on vacation, and they unfortunately hit a what do they call it? A time fold or something like that?
Time fold, aka a wormhole.
It's a wormhole. Yeah, but we can't say that, because then we might have the Star Trek guys all up on us. But, what can you do? And, of course, we got Norman with us.
Hey, Norman.
Says, hi, all. Hey, Norman, how you doing? All right, glad you could join us tonight. Or this morning, depending on who you are or where you are. But anyway, so we're looking into the Fold, which is the 8th episode of the first season of the Orville. And basically, Claire and company, they hit this fold or wormhole, depending on who you want to talk to. And it basically thrusts them, I think they said 1,000 light years away from their course or something like that. And basically to a system that's definitely not familiar to them. And at this point, we basically they end up crash landing because, unfortunately, the shuttle just couldn't handle that old time fold. You know what? The folds are always the things that will take you down, guys. Let's be honest. But Kevin, what are your thoughts on this episode? Your initial thoughts?
Well, I'm of two minds. This episode in itself, it's not bad, but I'm tired of this premise. Like I'm bored by the fighting kids and the family, like, and everybody coming to realize how much they love each other. Like, I've seen this in sitcoms my whole life.
We've seen this even in Star Trek. Like,
that said,
yeah,
there's some good in this episode. There's some even within that story. Like Claire escaping from I really liked all of her stuff, like all of her escaping from that guy and whatnot. But the Isaac and the kids, I could have done without it.
And that's kind of what Adam and I were saying when we first connected today, was that the kids are very annoying in this episode. They're extremely annoying. Of course, that's kind of what they were supposed to be, but overall, it's I'm pretty much on the same page with you on this one. I think there's some really good in it, and there's some definite bad. and a lot of tropes that we've seen many, many times over. Adam, your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll start by saying is like the first 5 or 7 minutes of the show were quite annoying. I wanted to, like, honestly, those kids, if I had kids like that, we have a problem. But it did get very interesting to me. I really liked the idea. First of all, the crash, we'll get to it, but the crash was really great. That whole crash sequence was fantastic.
You know what? It really is. And I got a lot of screenshots for the for that
Yeah.
because I was like, wow, they just pulled a Deanna Troy. This was amazing.
I loved that they had the like the story on the planet of the war and what, and they didn't have to explain everything. It was good enough. You know, I like that they had this guy, the survivalist guy who had prepared, you know, it was
the prepper.
Yeah.
The prepper, yeah.
You know, and you're right, Kevin. The escape scene was good. The battle scenes were good. Like the fight scenes, it was pretty. But again, it was typical Orville. It just wrapped up very quickly and easily.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, the last like 3 minutes, like it just wraps the whole thing up and it's done kind of thing. But it's interesting.
But you know what's kind of funny is, like, you know, I mean, we won't call it a wormhole, but a wormhole. They find a stable fold, you know, in this universe, and then nothing said about it.
Yeah, they're like, we're not parking a station near there or anything. We're just like,
we had a whole 7 years about a stable wormhole.
Yeah. We're fine. We don't need it. It's very true. Well, yeah, you know, all your points are very valid. They're exactly what I was thinking. There's not much else to say other than let's get into the screenshot, shall we?
Let's go.
All right. So, of course, we got our ship at the beginning here.
I'm loving this ship even more as this season goes on.
You know what? I absolutely hated the design of this, and I think it was because I'm very Star Trek biased, but it has grown over time with me. I agree with you. The same thing.
It
Kevin,
seems almost like it belongs more underwater than in space.
It definitely gives me that. What was it? DSV. What was the name of that show?
I know what you're talking about.
The sub, yeah, the sub in the future.
Yeah.
Sequest DSV. Yes.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Remember that show? Yeah. it definitely reminds me of like something that should be in that. Absolutely, I agree with you, Evan.
But you know what I like about it is, like, when you get to the shuttle shots, or a little later, but
yeah,
the shuttles are just like mini versions of it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. They only have the 2 instead of the 3,
Yeah.
but past that, yeah, they're chunky. They're basically chunky little versions of them. But anyway, our first scene starts off with Claire sleeping, and her littlest kid, can't remember his name. What is it? Ty, yes. So Ty basically, you know, he does the old, you know, we're going to Wonderland type thing where he jumps on the bed and he's like, I'm so excited, let's go to Disney World, you know, that kind of thing, or whatever the equivalent is in this universe. But basically, they're going to, I guess, a pleasure planet, I guess is a good way to say it. Well, maybe
a
not.
leisure planet. Pleasure planet.
Pleasure planet's a little different.
Different thing.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe, well, you know, Claire's single, you know, it's fine. But anyway, but basically he says, you know, she's like, you know, where's your brother? And he's like, he's still sleeping. He's a big ass, you know, but, you know, obviously he's a teenager. He sleeps all the time. Or at least I think he's a teenager. I don't actually know. But basically she goes in there. She's like, you're not even ready yet. You're not even packed. You know, anybody who has kids would definitely relate to this scene. I don't know how many times I've had to say, hey, you know, it's time to pack or something like that. But, you know, it's any parent would really know this. I think everybody on this panel has experienced that many times.
Hey, go back, please. Look at that piece of art. What does that look like to you guys?
It looks to be like a background to the video game Rayman, but I don't know. Why? What is it?
I just thought of the same thing. It looks awful like some kind of video game to me.
Yeah. It's definitely like a stock photo that they just threw on the wall. But anyway, she's like trying to wake his ass up. He's like, yeah, he just rolls over and starts sleeping again. And then now you see us in the shuttle bay, and there's our chunky little shuttle right there. The shuttles, I like the shuttles, but I also think they're very basic. Like the outside, like, is very sleek. It reminds me of one of those like what are those motorhomes, the Airstreams Airstream motorhomes.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds
Oh,
me of
yeah,
that one,
yeah, that's true.
with less windows.
It's the inside of these that drive me nuts because they're a lot like original series, because original series was just a bunch of chairs in a box, right?
Yeah, and that's
it's the
basically what
same.
these are.
This
Yeah.
seems like it's just a bunch of gaming chairs sitting in a box.
Well, do you remember the episode of the original series? What is it, Galileo
Galileo
8
7, yeah.
or 7?
All
Yeah,
the chairs just fall over.
they all
and-
just fall over and stuff, and it's like, well, at least these ones are attached to the ground. I guess that's probably a good thing. But anyway, Claire is under the impression that what's his name's going to be driving them. John. I always forget his last name.
Lamar.
Lamar. There you go. So John
After
Lamar,
last week's episode, he can't leave the ship anymore.
yeah, he's not allowed to leave the ship. Yeah, he's like, no, you're going to end up fighting some other voting planet that you're end up causing an international incident.
That's right.
But yeah, no. So basically, he's supposed to be the pilot, and they've decided because they're going to space dock to do some repairs, they need him, which kind of hints at the fact that he's going to be an engineer later on in the series. He'll be the chief engineer, but we don't know that yet. But spoilers. But yeah, so basically, she's like, okay, well, Kelly's like, well, just to let you know, I did find you a replacement. It's Isaac, and she's like, oh, fantastic. She's clearly not that interested in Isaac at this point, but this is the episode that makes her like him, I guess. But anyway, we got our title card into the fold, and there's our little ship moving around, and the kids are just being a pain in the ass in the back of this shuttle. Now the shuttle isn't very big. I would say it's about the same size as the ones in TNG, the standard ones. But it does have a little like hutch area in the back there, just kind of like the other ones do. But these shuttles, I think in the future, somebody just lost the idea of what a shuttle should be. I like you get like a lot of times they're taking these shuttles for like days at a time before they get to their destination. It's like, you're telling me that they literally sleep in these chairs too? Like, that must suck. But anyway, it is what it is. All right. So anyway. But basically, they're still fighting, and she's like, I can't remember the exact line, but basically Isaac, offers the idea of him to.
I will lose my mind.
Yeah, I will lose my mind. Yeah, and then later on, he's like, yeah, I could disintegrate them for you if you want. Like, and he says it like so blatantly.
He says that on Kalon when there's a program that is malfunctioning, they destroy it.
Yeah,
or they delete it. Yeah. And she goes, oh, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. And he's like, well, I could disintegrate your children for you.
Vaporize is what he said.
Which, let's be honest, as parents, it's gone through our head at least once. Yeah. We wouldn't act on it, but it's gone through our head at least once. But anyway, these two jackass kids are screwing around in the back of this shuttle, making things. And of course, she's very much,
there's the face right there.
Yeah, there's the mom face. You better shut your mouths and sit on down, kind of thing. And then Isaac's like, oh, look, there's a big anomaly coming in.
I love when Isaac says, your older and less intelligent child seems to enjoy
just insulting
on your younger child.
Yeah, he insults children constantly. Yeah,
she never questioned it. She just went with it.
No, she's like, I'm familiar with the fact that the youngest one is smarter. So they obviously hit some turbulence, hit this, they're getting sucked into the fold.
Yeah, but again, the kid threw his little gaming toy.
Yeah, which screwed them up even more. I didn't actually catch that, I don't think. It was so fast. But yeah, he threw his like handheld, DS or whatever it was, into the controls and messed up something, and then they ended up going off course. And then they're getting sucked into the fold, basically. They end up going through the fold. There's a lot of actiony. They get hurtled, basically, into this area, and they end up finding this planet, which is actually a moon, I think they said. It's not even really a planet. But this moon that had a good enough atmosphere that they could crash land, because obviously there's some damage to the ship at this point. They come in. Now, I will say, their approach shot is fantastic in this. Like, I don't know who did it. I don't know if it was all CG'd or if they did some weird stuff with it, but it was great, I thought. Just obviously they're doing kind of an overlap with, real, I'm sure they got, a helicopter and shot some real stuff and then touched it up in post. But basically, they end up hitting this little peak here, and the ship basically separates in two. And at this point, Claire is in the back, and the kids and Isaac are up front.
Bye-bye, Claire.
Yeah, so bye-bye, Claire. She's gone. And then, as I said, they pull a Deanna Troi and just dig it right into the dirt. And then at that point, it's crashed. But they did a great job on this, I thought. When it comes to crashing stuff, like if you compare this to like Enterprise, this is 20-fold better than Enterprise when it comes to crash landing.
Yes, but the only thing that got me was that shuttle would have slid a lot fucking farther than that.
Or rolled.
Yeah.
Flipped over.
Yeah, there would have been some flips, some rolls, maybe it's bottom heavy. I don't know. Either way, you hit the trees, you're definitely flying around.
Yeah. It'd be kind of cool too to show like exactly how like the kids survive. I mean, actually, Marcus was pretty beat up. I'll say.
Yeah, Marcus had a dislocated injury there.
Yeah.
What's interesting though is if you notice the front of this is dug into the thing, but when it lands, it's not as dug in. So it's almost like it dug in more when it came to a stop. I don't know why, but anyway, I guess that was just a formality. But anyway, so they come to Ty's okay. Marcus is having a bad day. He's got a screwed up thing. And then we go over to Claire. Claire has been ejected from the thing. So she's kind of out of it. But she's still alive. And then all of a sudden a figure comes in, starts dragging her away. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. But we don't see the figure. Isaac at this point, he's already fixed for some strange reason, I must have missed it. Did I miss it? Oh, this is where he's actually putting the knee back into place.
Back in alignment. Yeah.
And the kid screams, and then all of a sudden he's like, actually, that does feel better. It's like, I don't know if you guys have ever dislocated a joint, but it's
true. It's exactly like that. I mean,
but it does feel great once it goes back in. I've dislocated my shoulder twice, and both times I had it popped in by somebody, and it was like, oh, still sore, but not as bad as it was. But anyway, so he's just kind of hanging out there. Isaac's looking around. He's trying to figure out where Claire is, but unfortunately, he only has the hand scanner. The ship is obviously destroyed at this point, so they don't have any power for the ship, or at least not enough power to use the scanners anyway. So Isaac's like, well, I'm gonna go find Claire, and here's a phaser. You've never used it before, you're not trained on it, no big deal, just hit the button up on the top and then click to shoot, kind of thing is the instructions you get. And the kids are like, no, we're kids, like we can't do this. And Isaac's like, yeah, I don't care, and he just walks away because Isaac doesn't care.
Yeah, he's like, you now have a 22% chance of survival. I believe
you have a 22% better chance of survival now that you have a gun in your hand. Good luck. And he starts walking on his 4 miles.
4 kilometers,
4 kilometers, yeah. I forgot they use metric in this universe. But actually, I think Star Trek does too.
Star Trek does too.
Yeah, but stupid Americans. But anyway, and there goes all our viewership. Okay, anyway, so Isaac's on his way. He's looking around. At this point, apparently, I need to take some medication because I'm old. And past that, sorry, guys. I'm just going to mute this. So, one of these days, I'm going to learn not to do that. But anyway, so he's playing with his little Game Boy that appears to have some sort of holographic interface as well. Pretty fancy schmancy. I'm surprised. Yeah, he's still being an asshole, though, because the kid wants to play with it. The other kid's like, no, you can't play with it.
I would have been like, somebody handed me a gun, I'm going to do some target practice.
Absolutely. And their guns have like a really long power cell. So, you could shoot a couple shots off. It'd be fine. That kind of thing. But anyway, the two of them start hearing things moving around. He gets the gun out and something snatches Ty. And then at this point, basically he runs out to go take a shot at him, goes to take the shot. Turns out Isaac's there, and Isaac took the shot and got it. But apparently I missed the frame on that as well. And now we're back at the Stardock where the Orville's sitting, getting repairs. And they're
Great
listening
scene.
they're listening to Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow.
I can't remember the name of the song, but it's
What's the song called? Hold on. Somewhere Down the Road.
Somewhere Down the Road. Yes, there you go. Which is kind of the best, I think, in this entire scene isn't the gap between these guys. It's actually when Mercer shows up, because Mercer walks in. He's like, he was such a genius. It's like
Manilow was such a genius. Yeah.
Manilow was such a genius. But yeah. So anyway, the two of them are talking. They're talking about Lamar wants to change the music because he's like, this is absolutely terrible. But Norman says it was somewhere down the long road.
Didn't I say that?
Whatever.
Yeah.
We were close enough. It's fine. So no points for you, Norman.
Oh, down the long road. Pardon me. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so he is right and you're wrong then.
Sorry.
Norman's better. We're gonna have him on instead of you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam.
Punt me.
Your time's over now. I'm sorry. But anyway. Oh, and I've now lost control again because I'm not Dave.
4 years in.
What's that?
Oh, look at that. Look at you, Norman. You're making the links and everything.
He says, referring to the Enterprise theme song, it's been a long road. All right, I won't sing any more of that because I don't want to lose more viewers than we already have. But anyway, so they're basically Mercer comes in and they figure out that they get a call from, I think, from the dock that Claire was supposed to be at, saying they never arrived. And at this point, Mercer's like, yeah, we got to get going here. And Lamar's like, yeah, no, I don't think we can do that. The thing over there, that's, the thing that's sitting down on the ground, that's the navigational system. And he's like, well, you're going to have to do it manually with some star charts.
Yeah. I love the comment. Don't get us lost, man.
Yeah, don't get us lost, man. This guy here, he's already on the shit list. Like he screwed up massively in the last episode. So yeah. There's gonna be a problem. And don't hump anything. They should have said that too. But anyway, again, we got some pretty cool shots here of the planet. They're back on the ship now, and at this point, Isaac's kind of figured out that he needs. I can't remember what their version of dilithium is called, but basically, the thing that runs the engines, the mineral. And they're like, well, I don't have enough. Energy to be able to long range scan and. I think it was either Ty or Marcus that's like, well, why don't you just go scan anyway? Like,
Oh, Marcus does. Marcus says we learned in school that
there's
whatever it is, whatever is on.
We'll just call it dilithium.
On all sorts of planets. So try scanning anyway. And then Isaac says, "Hey, you're not as dumb as I thought you were.
Not as dumb as you look."
You're not as dumb as you look. And he starts scanning, and it turns out that the hull has remnants of it, which means that when they came in, they dug up some dirt and there was stuff in there. But anyway, so yeah, this is where he's like, "Yeah, you're not as dumb as you look," or whatever he said. And then we go back to Claire. So Claire is now in some sort of prison cell or something like that. We don't actually know what it is yet. We find out later on. And this guy opens up the door and he's like, "You should eat." And she's like, "I'm not hungry." Does the typical tripe when you're in jail. You should never eat because that would be a bad idea. But every series does this where it's like, "Oh, I'm not going to eat." There was Enterprise episodes.
Who ate a lot? Don't know. Archer always ate.
That's true. Archer did always eat. He was the only one. He's like, "Well, fuck it. If I'm going to be here, I might as well eat."
Well, he had to eat. He was always taking beatings and shit. So
it's
he had
true.
to,
Yeah, he got his ass kicked. He got his ass kicked a lot. Yeah. They always punched him first too, which I thought was pretty impressive. But anyway, this guy's like, "Yeah, it's really dangerous out there, blah blah blah," and all this. And he's like, I can't remember exactly what he says. She's like, let me call my family or whatever. And he's like, oh, blah blah blah. So obviously you get the impression that he's hiding from whatever is snatching things as well.
So this is actually kind of a cool scene because up till now we haven't really seen Penny Johnson do anything other than her doctor role, and now she's stretching her acting a little bit, and she's great.
Well, we know she's a good actress anyway. Like her previous work has proven that to us, so it's not hard. I think she was a little stereotypical written in DS9, but I've seen some of her other work and it's pretty good.
Watch her in the Larry Sanders Show. She's fucking phenomenal.
Yes, I've heard that. I'm not a big Larry Sanders guy, but one of these days I'm gonna have to.
But but 24 as well, when she's the first lady, she's so conniving.
She was great in 24. Yeah, she's so evil too, and it's like I don't picture Penny Johnson as evil. You know what I mean? Like she's just not an evil. She doesn't have the evil face and everything, but man, she's brutal in that show. Anyway, so yeah, we're going through. We eventually cut back to Isaac and the kids walking around. They're looking for this dilithium crap. And I don't know why I got that shot. I guess we wanted a blurry tree shot, but anyway, he can now hear, he hears something and he's like, something's approaching. And sure enough, we have our zombie boil guys, or whatever they are. But basically we don't find out yet, but essentially they've been affected by some sort of war thing where they spike the water source or something, and
biological weapon in the water supply.
Yeah, which kind of seems dumb because if one side's going to do that, the whole world will suffer, including them. So
Cisco must have been to this planet.
I'm guessing Cisco has been here. Yes,
he poisoned them all.
He poisoned everybody.
He must have betrayed their uniform.
Probably. Yeah. Never betray the uniform, guys. But anyway, Isaac's just like, wow, these guys are interesting. And then they start trying to attack, and that's when Isaac gets his shoot on. And Isaac is a very good trigger. He's really good at it, which I guess makes sense. But also, it's kind of the first time we've really seen him go kind of nuts, haven't we? We haven't really seen much of him when it comes to fighting, I don't think.
No, he mostly sits in front of his computer.
Yeah, he mostly sits at the panel. So anyway, it's kind of refreshing to see the fact that, and I like how he does a little holster thing too, where he like kind of, puts the holster back in. Norman has said, "You betrayed the uniform." Don't do that. All right. Anyway, but we haven't heard much from Sam today. I'm wondering if Sam is
he here?
Yeah, he's here. Sam, let us know you're alive, man. But anyway, so
it's your annoying thinking about Davin. Yes.
Yeah. I did like his comment with Devin. That was funny. Anyway, so I guess Isaac explains to him, yeah, they're not dead. They're just stunned. Just stunned them. And Ty wants to hold his hand, and Isaac first is like, no, I need my hand. My hand is, critical for me to do things. And
my hand must remain unencumbered in the event that I require it.
Yes, exactly. And Ty didn't like that very much. And then Marcus is like, just hold his damn hand. And so then Isaac holds his hand, and then they will kind of walk off. And now we're back to Penny Johnson again, who is clearly trying to find a way out of this cell. And she's breaking part of the bed frame to give herself kind of a little shank thing. And she's peeling up these some sort of covering or armor or something like that on the walls. And the guy shows up again, but she kind of sneaks back quickly before he's aware that she's doing it. She's just kind of sitting very inconspicuously. Not really, but anyway, it's fine. And basically he comes in and he's like, you haven't eaten anything. And he's like, eat. And he's being a little bit more forceful at this point. And she's just like, fine, fuck, I'll eat. So she starts eating. And then at that point, he kind of goes into the reason why we are where we are kind of thing. He starts talking about the war that happened.
When she says to him that he doesn't look sick, I'm like, what? He totally looks sick. But not as bad as the others.
Well, you gotta remember it.
I saw it coming. That was great.
This lady also dates the glob guy too, so clearly she has interesting standards. But anyway, But we have he basically sits down and talks with her for a little bit. She's just like, I need a thing, and he's like, yeah, I got a really good supply of water and food, and oh yeah, I got a gun. Guns are helpful too. And at this point, you got to remember, she doesn't actually know that there's anything hostile going on other than she's been abducted by this guy, because she didn't come across anybody yet, so she doesn't really know, right? So even more suspicious as to why she thinks he looks normal. Maybe normal compared to the Boyle guys that you see later on, but not so much there. But anyway, she pries. She ends up getting. She's still working on this window thing because she can see the sunlight coming in, so she knows there's a window or something there. But anyway, we go back to Isaac and the kids walking around, and Ty falls off of a thing and falls into the water. Conveniently, the water that we were just told has some sort of bubonic plague kind of thing going through it.
Yeah. And he doesn't just fall like in the water. He goes for a swim.
Oh yeah, he's swimming. Like he's all over the place. And this is a fucking river. Like it couldn't be that deep. Like I think he's standing here. So it couldn't be that bad. And then Isaac like pulls him out, and at this point they're like, okay, let's keep going, not realizing that that's a problem because they don't have that information. And then we go back to the Orville, who comes across the, what is it? Space ribbon. What is it?
Space fold.
Spatial fold. Spatial fold. There you go. So they come across the spatial fold, and they make a joke about it being the glory hole. And then once they get there, Brutus is like, now entering glory hole.
Yeah, and I do love Mercer's like, no, like just no, never mind. Like,
we got to get better people in the ship.
Oh no, that was the damage report. That was the damage report.
That was later.
He spilled soy sauce on his pants.
Yeah, he spilled soy sauce on his pants. He put that in a damage report. We got to get better people in this.
That was a great line, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, here's the glory hole thing. No, enter glory hole. It's just something fun about it when Bortus says it. But anyway, so they go through this whole thing. They get zapped far away like the shuttle did. And they've taken some damage, but it's not as bad.
So this is an interesting scene to me. So in the beginning here, they're following its ion trail, right, to the spatial fold.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get through it, unless their sensors are down, they couldn't follow the trail again.
Yeah. So now they're like, oh, well, where would they possibly be? And it's like, well, there's a whole bunch of places that they could be because they're hospitable atmospheres, and then sure enough, they start looking one by one on all these little planets or moons. So anyway, Isaac is now camped out with the two kids. Ty's like, can't you tell me? Like, oh yeah, he first goes and puts more logs on the fire. And the kids note that, it must be nice not to feel pain. And he's like, yeah, I guess. But anyway, he tells them to get vertical, or no, get horizontal. Get horizontal. And they're like, what? And he goes, lay down.
I love his first story, though.
His first story is basically just a recap. It's like, so there was this doctor and their two kids and this superior life form. And they all crashed on this thing. The end. That was pretty much the end of it. And then they're like, well, can you tell us a different story? So he looks up, I think, Peter Rabbit. And then Ty is like, well, you told us that you could say things in other people's voices. Can you tell it like mom's? And then, obviously we get to a voiceover of his mom, their mom saying the story, to ease them, I guess. And now we're back to mom. And a mouse apparently. Go away. Anyway, so she's still working on this thing. She's now kind of gotten the whole thing out, the panel. And she looks out and she's like, shit, this ain't gonna work. All right. So I did like these structures though. These were kind of neat. I guess we figure out later on they're actually apartments. They're versions of apartments basically, because she like crawls out and then goes back in and there's an apartment there. But she doesn't do that right now. She waits a little bit later for that, but she's like, oh, it's a little far. And then Isaac gets woken up by one of the kids. Isaac is just standing there because, he doesn't have to sleep. And he's like, oh, you're awake. And then Ty's like, I don't feel so good. And it's like, oh, he's got boils on his face. Not to mention his hairdo. But I guess that's a whole other problem. Now, the only thing I didn't catch, which I thought was really stupid, was the fact that they had the blanket over his face. And then they did it as like the reveal. It's like, come on. We already knew there was going to be something going on.
He went in the water. We knew he was sick. Okay,
yeah, we already knew he was sick. You didn't have to go that far. But anyway, we're back to the apartments again. She's in shank mode now, and she's decided she's going to cut herself to basically get his attention to get some sort of first aid, and then she's going to attack him basically. So he comes in after she yells, and he's like, "Oh, it's a wound, blah blah blah," and she basically kind of grabs onto his hand to make it look like she's like kind of easing up on him.
She's like, if you don't go get me the antibiotics, I might die and you'll be alone again.
Yeah.
Right.
She plays the heartstrings there.
Yeah.
And then at that point, she basically attacks. She basically. Oh no, she doesn't attack yet, right? She attacks. Does she attack?
Yeah, when he comes back.
When he comes back, she attacks him, and then
she goes out. She goes out. She
wraps, and then now she goes out. Yeah, so she goes out the window. Oh no, she waits until the morning, and then she goes out. And then she looks out again. She's like, "Oh shit, this is pretty big." And then she's like, "Okay," and she crawls over. Turns out these things have balconies with sliding doors, so that's pretty handy. And she goes in, and she's like kind of rummaging through his like apartment, I guess. And at this point, we go back to Isaac and the kids. They found some, and now they're going back to the ship. If I'm not mistaken.
And then she found the communicator.
Yeah, she finds the communicator, and she's like starts talking to Isaac, and Isaac's like, "Oh, you're alive," blah blah blah, and she's like, and then there's this whole back and forth with kids. Ty's really sick, and I miss you, Mom, and I'm sorry I said those bad things in the shuttle and when we're on our way out. And she's like, "Yeah, it's fine. We say things when we're mad, blah, blah, blah. Your typical."
I know every show does this, but the whole time I'm thinking, hey, time is of the essence here. Like, dude is coming back.
and not only that, but Ty is dying. So
right.
You might want to like step on and deal with this later.
Priorities, people.
Marcus, do you really have to be this selfish? I guess is really what it comes down to.
Did they mention to her that Ty was sick?
Yes.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
why she decides she's going to escape and get running.
And she knows what he's sick with because
so she ends up flying like a fillet knife or something like that. And she basically this guy jumps back in. He sees her. The two of them start fighting.
Did you find this like a little excessive?
What, her stabbing him?
They stabbed him in the belly.
Well, she's been taken and held hostage. I don't know.
Yeah.
You kind of.
Yeah,
maybe not have any intention.
He doesn't have any intention of ever letting her go.
Yeah, as far as we can tell.
Not.
Yeah. So anyway, she kind of stabs him during their fight, and then she shoots him. She's like, she grabs his gun and fucking takes the shot off on him. So at this point, I think he's dead. I don't think we actually see.
No, we don't see him again.
Yeah,
No.
So we don't actually know if he's dead, but I guess it's kind of assumed.
Probably.
Yeah. So anyway, she's now venturing forth. She's following the tracker on her communication device to find these people, and turns out she runs into more of the zombie pimple guys. And then at this point,
He's just shooting everybody. This one.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of shooting going on here. She starts like shooting the hell out of everything, and she's killing them. Like she's not stunning nobody. She's like,
well, that's a gun, not a phaser.
Well, phasers can kill too, but Isaac's like, I'll just stun everybody. It's fine. Anyway, so she comes across the site, and Marcus is out there, and he sees her. There's a warm embrace, blah blah blah, and then Isaac's like, Ty's sick, he's inside. So she basically goes and sees him. She starts, doing her doctor routine on him, and Isaac puts in the thing that he's found to power it up a little bit, and turns out there was power, but just enough power to send a little tiny message. Nothing of significance, but it was a little tiny burst, I guess. And then she basically breaks down. She's like, if I don't get him to the ship, he's dead. Like, he's dead soon. Like, there's no way around it. And then at that point, Isaac grabs her hand because he's learned that, humans need this, apparently. It means nothing to him, but, he grabs her hand as kind of a support thing. And she just kind of looks at him like, this is bizarre, but okay, we'll go with it. Then we're back to the Orville. They're still looking around. They end up detecting the burst signal or whatever. And they just scan the planet. They end up finding 3 life forms plus the artificial one. And they're like, okay, yeah, they're down there. And he's like, okay, well, get a shuttle ready. Let's get going. Oh shit, there's also a whole bunch of other things there too. So anyway, they're on their way on the ship. At this point, she's going to be losing Ty soon. And at this point, Isaac has sensed that there's people around. Turns out, a whole bunch of zombie pimple guys are coming down, and they're all zipping down at him, and he's just stunning the hell out of everybody. He's shooting hardcore. But anyway, and they're just overwhelming him, like to the point where like they're still coming, and he's not getting them all. And sure enough, Claire's like, "Okay, Marcus, take this gun, go help." And he's like,
actually,
oh.
he stands up and says, "I'll go."
Oh yes, he says, "I'll go," because she was going to go. Yeah.
So I mean, this was like I think just an indication of maturity, and
yeah, he's starting to
willing
mature
to do
up
his share. Yeah,
exactly. So anyway,
but what is she doing for Ty right now?
Nothing.
Fucking nothing. She's
so she sacrificed one of her kids, really.
She already knows how to use that gun and is a better shot.
Yeah, but there's so many guns. They could have both gone out, and they could have doubled.
True.
That is true. Yeah. But anyway, what can you do?
And she's pretty good with just a pistol, by the way.
Yeah, she's really good. She's a good shot. So I'm not sure why it makes.
Oh, wait a second. This is the scene I wanted to talk about, because she's the one who now says about, we value life. And we're going to
value life, keep it on stun, basically.
But she just killed like 6 guys.
I never even thought of that. That's so true. She's like, I guess the circumstances were different.
Maybe.
I'm not totally sure how, but they were different.
Well, she didn't have a phaser. Fair enough. But
yeah. But I guess she didn't have the option, so she had to use what she had, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, Marcus goes out there. He starts taking shots too. And the two of them are just taking shot after shot after shot. Blah, blah, blah. They're all shooting. Apparently, I never actually got any of the shots on my screenshots. But oh, there's one. I assure you, he was taking shots.
Were all these screenshots from before they put the effects in?
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's really hard to catch them because they are really.
Oh
fast,
yeah.
But
there's one.
Yeah, there was one there. Yeah. I try to catch them, but they don't always come out. But anyway, and then all of a sudden, there's like mortar fire or something, but it turns out it's actually the shuttle kind of laying waste. Now, I'm pretty sure they don't have stun torpedoes, so I'm pretty sure they are not valuing life at this point.
But isn't this a shuttlecraft? No, I guess it would be there.
Yeah, it is. It's a shuttlecraft that's doing this. Yeah. Or at least that's the impression I got anyway. Well, I guess it could have been the Orville.
No, I think it's the shuttlecraft.
It's probably the shuttlecraft. But anyway, they are definitely not doing the whole we value life thing. They're just knocking the hell out of all these things.
No, it's just Dr. Finn trying to make sure that her son doesn't live with the years of being like, I killed a man.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden the spotlight goes off and it turns out it's the shuttle. Claire is like, woohoo, I can save my kid. I don't care about the other one. And at this point she goes out and she's like, okay, fine. I guess I'll embrace the other one. And at this point, the shuttle, you assume the shuttle picks them up and they go back to the Orville. They are now on the Orville. It looks like Ty is getting the needed medical that he requires, and now is looking better, but he's still obviously, he's still waiting for the toxin to come out. She's looking fantastic for a person who had cuts all over her face and everything. So I guess they must have those dermal things like they do in TNG. But anyway, so they're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. How's he doing? All this. And she's like, he's doing all right. And I can't remember what Mercer was even talking about at this point.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But anyway, she's like, oh, that's great. And she's like, does anybody know where Isaac is? And, they're like, oh, yeah. And so anyway, she goes down to engineering where Isaac is. And she's like, I really want to thank you. You really helped, my family and blah, blah, blah. And, they really like you and they want you to come by. And he's like, I don't know why that.
He's like, why?
Yeah, why? Like, who cares? But anyway, and she's like, well, they miss you and stuff like that. And it's like, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, the two of them have kind of I guess it's a moment. Well, at least for her it is. I don't think it's for Isaac at all. But anyway, so she's like, she's kind of happy, and she's like, well, don't be a stranger, kind of thing. And he's like, okay, and he goes back to working, and that's the end of the episode. So overall, whoops, we're zooming in here. Overall, guys, I think it's okay. It's an all right episode. But the real question here, guys, is the big question. Do we have any fun facts today?
We do, actually. We have
fun facts with Adam. Yeah, there we go. All right.
Okay, so first of all, Brian Thompson, who plays Drogon, is no stranger to TV-based science fiction. In addition to playing multiple Star Trek roles, including 2 Klingons, a Romulan, and a Jem'Hadar, he was also played a recurring villain on The X-Files. And that's where I can see him. He's got the big forehead, the big brow.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So
yeah, I thought he sounded familiar for sure. So
yeah, he's definitely got a big face, and you can see it in other roles if you remember him. The props used for Dr. Finn's suitcase were a modified Samsonite hardshell rolling suitcase. So they must have gone down to the local Bentleys and picked up a case. When they were writing this, Seth MacFarlane tasked producers Brennan Braga and Andre Bormanis to write the 8th episode for what became Into the Fold. However, Braga was inexperienced with comedy scripts and terrified that he could not write a suitably funny episode. It turned out, well, honestly, with the kids, it turned out he was responsible for adding jokes. Most were removed by MacFarlane.
Hell, it's his baby.
Braga presented a draft to the writing team for the Comedy Pass, where writers discussed humor of the episode at length and helped by peppering the script with humorous moments. When Braga finally recalled, it was relatively easy to write for Claire Finn. His great challenge was writing for Isaac. He was worried that a faceless, nondescript android could undermine the emotions evoked in the episode's most sensitive scenes. But he was pleased with Mark Jackson's performance. I don't know why. I mean, I think he wrote enough for Data. He could.
Yeah, you would think. But Data has more of a personality.
Yeah. Yes.
Isaac is very, very dry. Like, he's just extremely dry.
Well, I think it was Dave a couple of episodes ago. He said, imagine being Mark Jackson. You don't even get yourself shown until
near the end of the second season. Yeah.
Composer Joel McNeely took 3 weeks to compose the score for this, and the songs composed for this episode are hilariously titled, in my opinion. Number 1 is Sucked In. Number 2, Claire Breaks Out. Number 3, The Fight. Claire returns to the wreck, The Attack, and Claire thanks Isaac. All number 1 hits.
I bet. I have them on CD.
Yep. After the Orville premiered, MacFarlane commented on the ethics behind the final battle of the Finns and Isaac against the indigenous attackers. Claire orders Marcus to set his weapon to stun. They may not care about life, but we do. And then MacFarlane's comments on this were, Gene Roddenberry's philosophy was always very meaningful to me as a kid. I always loved that phasers were set to stun. That was something you really only saw on that show. It was an actual ethical code, and it wasn't just about shooting faceless bad guys. It was about respect for life. So, it's just sort of a weird dichotomy when Claire was running around with a gun shooting people. But anyway.
Yeah.
This episode near Halloween was given its dark content. It was regarded as thematic for the season.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah.
It doesn't scream Halloween to me.
No, but they talk a lot about this being a dark episode. But anyway,
Well, it is a less lighthearted episode than some of the previous ones, I think. But,
Dark for the Orville, but this is
this
pretty
is
standard stuff.
This is like child's play for TNG. This is pretty normal.
Yeah. When they were filming this episode in a place called Fraser Park in California, the kids found themselves to be sapped of energy at the end of each day. To keep them focused, McFarlane would give directions to the children in the Peter Griffin voice from Family Guy.
Oh God, that must have been something.
Yep. Just. Oh yeah. Ty wakes his mother by nagging at her with a mama, mummy, mum.
Oh God, yeah.
Obviously,
the words that no mother wants to actually hear.
Yep, but very much like Stewie nagging his mother on Family Guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. But this is obviously the first episode where Claire states she's developing feelings for Isaac, which leads to much more interesting things in the future with her and Isaac.
I remember people criticizing that the dynamic between the two. It was like, he's just an alien robot. Like, why are you into him, kind of thing. But yeah, I think it makes some stuff, especially in the later episodes. Like, there's some interesting interactions between them. So, but anyway, well, thank you, Adam.
Well, that's like, the episode with Data in that, I can't remember what the episode was called, but remember when he had that girlfriend who was on the crew?
Yes.
Yeah. And she asked him when he kisses her, did you feel anything? Or what were you thinking about? And he's listening. I was, thinking about 1,000 other things.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Yeah, he's just spouting off.
And then he's like, I was calculating the exact pressure to apply to your lips, and she's like, well, at least I was in there somewhere.
That's exactly what she said. And,
yeah. I remember that episode now. Yeah,
but this is very, very, congruent to that whole.
Are you not enjoying our lovers' quarrel?
All right. Well,
I like that episode a lot, actually. So.
Yeah, me too.
It's time for the ratings. Which, give me a second here. I just gotta make this a little bit bigger once I figure out how to do that. All right. So I'm gonna leave myself to last. So we're gonna go Adam.
I'm giving this a 7.5.
7.5 for Adam. All right. Dave unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. But Kevin.
Yeah, I'll give it the same 7.5. I'm trying not to be mean to it because I don't like the premise. It's actually a good episode, though.
Fair enough. I don't think I'm that high on it like you guys are. I'm gonna give it a 7. I think it was solid. It's a solid episode, and it's definitely better than last week's episode. But I wouldn't say it's a stellar episode. It's not like an episode that I would go back and go, woohoo, I really have to have this, that kind of thing.
I think I would have preferred more Claire escaping and her time with that guy than with Isaac and the kids.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And just sort of like how that other group of indigenous people are living, like because they reference they're all running out of food and there's nothing to eat. Like that would have been interesting. They didn't need to do it. I'm okay with it, but it would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
Well, and it turns out that IMDb feels the exact same way as us. They are currently at a 7.3, which gives us a combined average of 7.3 all across the board. So, I think we're pretty much in line with what everybody else felt. So, that's always a good thing, I guess.
I just can't believe it. They rated 8.2 on last week's episode.
Who?
IMDb.
Yeah. It was rated actually a better episode than this, which is bizarre. But anyway. Just goes to show you have to have your own opinions. And just because, we have opinions doesn't mean they're right, even though I believe they are.
Mine are.
Yeah, mine definitely are. I don't know about the rest of you. Anyway.
Narcissist. There it is.
That's right.
I'm the narcissist. For sure. And Norman says he's going to give it a 6.5. So he would bring us down to about a 7.
In theory, that was the episode. Thank you, Norman. Norman's just a wealth of information.
You know what? Norman really is. I would like to have him on one day. It would be nice to.
We should.
Nice to have him on. So Norman, reach out to us. message us on Facebook or something, and we'll see if we can arrange that. Maybe if you're willing to come on. If you're not, then no big deal. But anyway, well, gentlemen, that ties up this episode. And I think the next episode, if I'm not mistaken, what is the next episode? Oh, Cupid's Dagger. Which is, well, the crew attempts to mediate a peace treaty between two warring cultures. Tensions rise between Ed and Kelly when a familiar face comes aboard. This is when Rob Lowe shows up.
Yes.
Yeah, he plays
Julio or something.
I can't remember his name. Yeah, but it's Rob Lowe. And we only got to saw him for a brief moment in the first episode when he was having some fun with Kelly and then splooging everywhere.
I enjoy this next episode. It's
pretty good, actually, especially Rob Lowe is really good at comedy. Even though a lot of people don't see him as a comedic actor, but
I certainly do.
I absolutely, especially
Wayne's
if you see him in Wayne's
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec is probably the one that stands out the most for me when it comes to comedy. But he does a good job, especially for somebody who you wouldn't think would be doing a good job. But
he's even funny as like the fire captain, and I can't remember the name of the series, but 911, whatever.
Oh, Reno 911.
Not Reno. No,
Oh, no. That was about police.
Doesn't matter. He's a fire captain in Texas.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about, but I do not remember the name of it. But yeah, I did see a couple episodes of it. Wasn't too bad. All right, gentlemen. Well, I think that just pretty much sums it up for us. I would normally ask what you guys are doing, but I would think pretty much what's going to end up happening is that neither one of you do anything other than this. So why bother asking?
Work in this.
Yeah, but on this channel, we also have tomorrow, I believe. Are any of you guys on? Kevin's on, I think.
Kevin's on.
I am, yeah.
Tomorrow for TNG. What's the episode?
Hide and Q.
Hide and Q. Oh, that's a fun one. I was Q once, Just so you know.
Mm-hmm. More than once, I think. I was also Q once.
Were you also Q once? Oh,
yeah. I think it's time for another.
Adam, when were you Q?
I was never Q.
Unbelievable. We got to make that happen. All right, but anyway, and
it's time for another Star Trek Radio Theater, though. I think.
You know what? You're gonna have to talk to Dave about that.
Dave's busy right now. I don't know about him. But
Dave's doing a lot of stuff right now, and he's tied up in a lot of things.
That'll be the one thing that'll set him over the edge.
Exactly.
He'll be like,
"Hey,
no!
Are we gonna do a radio theater? Jesus Christ, you guys!
I've had too much of this." All right. Anyway,
I just wait for Dave to tell us when we're gonna do it.
Yeah, Dave will eventually just tell everybody when we're going to do it and be done with it. Anyway, gentlemen, I do appreciate you joining us tonight, and I appreciate everybody who watched us live, and of course, people who are watching this recorded later on. We do appreciate you. A lot of our videos actually have been hitting pretty high numbers lately, so we do appreciate all that. And I think mostly it's for you too. I don't think anybody tunes in to see me. But
Jody, you're doing a fine job.
But I'm pretty sure it's definitely the stunning good looks from the other two that are here that probably makes it happen. Anyway, speaking of which, we do have other shows on the channel, which we will run the promo for that once I figure out where it is. Oh, there it is. All right. Anyway, any final thoughts, guys, before we head out?
No, I just, after last week, I'm happy to be back talking in a positive way.
Oh, there you go. That's a good way to end it. All right. Anyway, live long and podcast, everybody. Have a good one.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.